What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another post-match show as Spurs lost last night 1-0 to Manchester City, dumped out the FA Cup, trophyless for another year, it seems. And when you look at it yesterday, it was very much a very disappointing anti-climax, wasn't it? Because Spurs fans, especially us, were going into it very positive, very confident. And when we go into things very confident, this is usually what happens, isn't it?
Yeah, look, that's life of being a Spurs fan. Never get too ahead of yourself because you usually get a reality check at some point. I think the most disappointing thing going into yesterday, coming away from yesterday, was it was all set up to be a really special night. It was all set up to be a game where we took the game to Man City and we give it our best shot, and two really good footballing teams opening each other up and chances at both ends, and under the lights at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, a massive game in the FA Cup. If we could have really taken Man City out as well, it would have been really gone a long way to maybe getting Tottenham a really good chance of getting a trophy this season. So that was ultimately very disappointing. The fact there was a bit of a damn squib. It was just a bit of a nothing game.
Yeah.
Man City shut up shop, really. Not shut up shop, but they controlled the game in every facet. They didn't allow Tottenham to build up at all. I thought their pressing was brilliant. When they had the ball, they kept it brilliantly as well. We couldn't get it back off them. And it was basically a game of trying to pick our moments to break forward, and we had one shot the whole game, which I think tells the story of how much we struggled yesterday. And I don't think it was a case of lack of trying or lack of willingness and giving everything. But I think Ange put it perfectly. We were giving everything, but we were giving everything to stay in the game. It wasn't giving everything to go up the other end it wasn't giving everything to be dominant and be on top of them. And we were thoroughly outplayed. I think it's fair to say. And even in that stage where we were outplayed and we deserved to lose, it was only 1-0 due to, a dodgy goal from a corner right in the last minute or 88th minute. So, look, we took them very close. So there is some credit to be had there, but you have to ultimately say one shot the whole game. That's massively disappointing, wherever you look at it.
It is massively disappointing, and yeah, I completely agree. Man City just controlled every facet of the game. We could hardly get out. In that first half, I was watching it and I was thinking, it sounded like we just have nothing here. We have absolutely nothing. We can't get out our own half. They suffocated us. Massive credit to Spurs, I thought, in the first half, the first 75 minutes of the game, to not concede, because the amount of control that Man City had, we just dug deep. We were defending really well, defending in numbers as well. Mickey van der Ven was just insane throughout the whole game. How many amazing challenges he was putting in. He was really putting his body on the line time and time again. I thought he was the best player on the pitch by far for both teams, to be honest. And our passing was just completely off on the day. I thought Pedro Porro, I expected a lot more from him in terms of his creative nous. Kulusevski in the first half, I thought, could have done a lot better on the ball. But I thought all these players, as much as I say how bad they were on the ball, I thought it was just a consequence of how good Man City were and how good their pressing was. And our work off the ball, I thought, was exceptional. I really did. I thought Kulusevski off the ball, Højbjerg off the ball, Porro, Udogie, Van der Ven, Romero, all of these players, I thought from a defensive standpoint, played really, really well. It's just that we couldn't get any creative moves and get ourselves up the pitch. That was the situation yesterday. So we missed Sonny desperately yesterday with that out ball. I thought, in terms of the way we were attacking Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side, he was getting the ball quite a number of times, but he just failed to take on his man round the outside. When he did get in good spaces, the ball into the box was pretty poor, aimed at no one, and there was no one making those runs inside the box either. So I thought, in terms of what we were missing yesterday, it was clear to see how much we missed Heung-min Son yesterday.
Yeah, because we didn't really have that threat in behind. Werner was pretty much anonymous for most of the game, apart from a couple of moments. One of them being in the second half where he actually did really well, got the ball into feet. I think he nutmegged, it was Walker, and then played a brilliant through ball to Johnson. That was the only shot of the game, and that was the only good piece of play from him pretty much throughout the whole game. The only other chance he had to get in behind was in the second half. It was late in the game. He actually got the run on Kyle Walker, but unfortunately Walker was quick enough to catch up with him, and there was no chance that came from it. And that's, I think, what massively missed, just that threat in behind Man City's defence. We had absolutely no way of getting through them. And the problem with that is, we were really struggling to get in behind, and then I felt like Werner and Johnson weren't showing for the ball as well.
I thought Werner was. I thought Werner was in the first half. I mean, Werner was in a number of acres of space a number of times, and we just failed to find him.
No, I'm saying that's running in behind. I'm saying he wasn't showing
right
in terms of coming short to it and like trying to collect it. If you're not going to find him in behind, which I agree with you, a number of times Werner must have been very frustrated because he was in a lot of good positions, and we just didn't see the pass, or we didn't pass it to him if we did see it. And maybe that's a consequence of, I know Kulusevski, playing in the number 10, but does he have that? I don't see him as like this long-range passer who has that vision. I see him as more as a ball carrier in the tight spaces. Is he the number 10 who's going to see a pass like far ahead and play the perfect through ball? I don't see him as that kind of creator. Bentancur, a very good player. We know that. Again, is he that creative kind of player? I know he's got good passing range. He can play a good switch of play. I don't see him as being this creator who has a picture of the whole pitch in his head. The one player I do see that is James Maddison, but obviously he was a bit anonymous when he came on, didn't really get to impact the game. And we need him or someone like a Lo Celso potentially as well. I think there's a bit of that in him as well. But we weren't able to play those passes in behind. And then if you're not going to play in behind, you need to be showing for the ball. You need to be beating your defender and allowing... I think Ritchie was the only one doing it when we played the ball into him and he was being a nuisance, winning free kicks, getting us up the pitch. But Johnson and Werner, they were anonymous a lot of the time. I thought Johnson a lot was bullied in that second half by Gvardiol. He was being super aggressive up against him, and whenever that ball was played to Johnson, Gvardiol was stepping up ahead of him, and Johnson had no answer to it. And Werner on the other side. The thing is with Werner, when he did get the ball, he looked good, but it was just so few and far between. He very, very, very rarely touched the ball. So
I felt like Werner, you would have seen Werner a lot more if Maddison would have started the game, because if Werner kept making those runs, showing what he was showing yesterday, Maddison would have picked him out time and time again, wouldn't he?
Yeah, that's that, and I think Werner probably feels that as well. So I think that was definitely frustrating. There were some good moments where there was also moments where I would say I think Man City's press was brilliant, and for long periods we did struggle to get out. But there were some isolated occasions we were able to put some combinations together, play some good football, and beat their press and get into the middle third. But then once we got into that middle third, we had no answer. So that was really frustrating. So in every facet, even when we did beat the press, we still weren't able to fashion a chance from it. So when you're doing that, you're just asking for trouble against a team like Man City. You've got to make those opportunities count, and we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, this is Man City's best display at our place for a very long time, in my opinion. The way that we just had no answer to what they could do. And I did feel like in the second half, there was a bit of a point where it seems as though the momentum was switching. And I remember saying to you, this is the most we've been on top all game. And then you said to me, yeah, right, on top, right?
Barely on top, yeah.
But I did feel like at that point, the momentum was kind of starting to switch a little bit. But again, just the quality up front, the quality on the wings, it just wasn't there.
Yeah, that's the biggest, I think, letdown yesterday, because you need your wide players in those one-on-one situations to be a lot more dominant on the wings, and they got dominated, and I think that was the biggest issue. I think getting the ball to the wide players, they weren't good in those one-on-one situations. Walker and Gvardiol felt comfortable throughout the whole game, and that was really disappointing. I thought the midfield three also didn't have their best game, albeit I thought they were very combative, and we know they got quality, and I think there were times where they were actually going toe-to-toe with Man City's midfielders at certain times. Most of the game, they were definitely second best, but at certain times they were able to do it. But I felt like throughout the whole 90 minutes, Werner and Johnson just didn't get the better of their fullbacks for pretty much throughout the whole game.
Yeah, I felt like I expected more from Rodrigo Bentancur yesterday, to be honest. I felt like there were a couple of moments in there where he showed his silky facets of his game, but all in all, it was a fairly poor game, and I thought he got taken off, and probably rightly so. In terms of the other midfielders, Kulusevski, again, I thought defensively he did well. Won a lot of duels yesterday. He was winning a lot of fouls yesterday. But from an attacking point of view, he just didn't give the team what the team needed. He was the one that really should have taken the game by the scruff of the neck and providing those passes in behind to Timo Werner and stuff. It just didn't happen. When he moved over to the right-hand side the second half, I did think he got a lot better. He was asking for the ball a lot more and trying to make stuff happen. But again, he was just stifled a bit. And I felt like every time he got the ball, he had 2 or 3 men on him, and they were really trying to just crowd him out the game, particularly when he went onto the right-hand side. So I thought Kulusevski was trying so hard yesterday, but quality on the ball, unfortunately, just wasn't there. And Højbjerg was probably our best midfielder yesterday, particularly in the first half. Everyone was saying they didn't want Højbjerg to start, particularly me. I said that, and I wanted Steve Maddison there, but he was probably our best midfielder on the day.
I don't know, because I think obviously we end up losing, so it cost us anyway, but those two moments, I can't get it out of my head in that second half, what he did.
But up until that moment.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
Inexplicable. One of them, he just takes a wild swing, like absolutely no composure, no thought, just like a brainless swing, which nearly, I think, fell to Bernardo Silva, which we luckily... Vicario saved. And the next one, he gets robbed inside his own penalty box he had so much time to clear the ball, and he just dawdles on it, gets robbed, falls to De Bruyne, and again we got very lucky not to concede in that situation. And I felt like he did tire in those last 20 minutes, and it was very poor. But yeah, probably for the first 70, he probably was our best midfielder. I don't think that's saying much, because I did think our midfield was poor overall. But there were times where we were going toe to toe with Man City's midfield, and he was being very combative. He was winning the ball and playing quick passes. But again, this is like Højbjerg playing well, but it's just not what we need. And there were so many occasions, I remember yesterday, where he had the opportunity to either drive into the space or just play a quick ball forward, and he turns back and he goes backwards, and he plays an inaccurate pass, and it's just very, very frustrating. I think we need, obviously we all know, I think it's no secret that we're trying to get rid of Højbjerg, and we need to kind of move on from him. And there's no secret, I still think he's a good player, but it's just so obvious when he's on the pitch that we're stifled. Like, there's just a bit missing when he's in that midfield. It's not his fault, because that's just the player he is, but that is the reality as well of the situation, that there's always that half a second missing with Højbjerg, where he takes too long on the ball, or he doesn't, or even if it's a tiny bit, the pass a tiny bit inaccurate, could have been a bit further forward in front of the player instead of a bit further behind him, or a quicker decision to play it forward rather than going backwards. That is always going to be the case with Højbjerg. I don't think it was a bad game. I don't think he played particularly well, but I don't think he had a bad game for sure.
Do you not think like that those mistakes might have been a consequence of just him running himself into the ground in those first 70 minutes? Because I thought he was just running himself ragged, to be honest, the way he was running about, the way he was putting in that effort for the team. And I'm not Højbjerg's biggest fan, right? But I actually saw some value in him yesterday, not on the ball, but definitely off the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you. He did offer... He wasn't offering nothing to the team, but I was just very frustrated with how he nearly cost us a few times. That was just very frustrating. And I think the second half, to be honest, I don't think he had a particularly good game. I thought first half he was much better. Second half, I don't think he played particularly well. Bentancur, I agree with you, wasn't his best game. I thought on the ball was okay. Off the ball, did look a bit sluggish, I felt. There were times where he got caught out and then recovered well, but I don't know. It wasn't. It just, maybe him in the in yesterday's game wasn't the right decision. Maybe it was had to put too much into it physically. Maybe he should have played in the number 6. I don't know. A lot for Aaron to think about in that situation. But yeah, Bentancur didn't have his best game. Was he rightly taken off? Probably on the balance of how they were playing, but I wouldn't have taken him off. I would have moved him to the 6, and I would have taken Højbjerg off. That's what I would have done. But look, maybe Ange saw Bentancur's tiring. He doesn't know if he's going to last the next 20 minutes.
They were all tiring, to be fair.
They were. I thought the last 15 minutes, we were very much under the cosh. I actually thought for the first 60, 75 minutes, as much as we were definitely second best, we were actually keeping City at arm's length for the majority of it. We didn't let them get too close to our goal. They had one chance, I think, through Alvarez, which was a good block from Van de Ven. And obviously they had that chance in the first couple of minutes from Foden. But apart from those couple of moments, like Vicario wasn't called into action that much. They didn't really get too many opportunities.
And that's a credit to the defence, isn't it? That's a massive credit to the defence, because the amount of possession that they had, the amount of possession they had in our own half, and they just couldn't really muster up a real chance, time and time again, like you would expect with the amount of kind of pressure we were under for the majority of the game. And I think that's a massive, massive credit to the 3 players, that is Romero, Van de Ven and Udogie, because I thought all 3 of them defensively were absolutely on point. Udogie was putting his body on the line, Van de Ven putting his body, and so on with Romero. But look, let's focus on Van de Ven, because he was just so good yesterday, and that was was a performance like we saw before that injury. You know, we saw that rust at Manchester United, but that was him back to his best, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. So great to have those recovery runs back. How many occasions yesterday did Man City get in behind? You think, oh God, we're in trouble here. And Van der Ven just
pops out of nowhere.
Yeah, you don't even see him. Literally, it's like he teleports into that position right where that Man City attacker is, and just clears the danger and either puts out for a throw, wins possession back comfortably. And it just reminded me, like, how many of those occasions that we had while he wasn't in the team, and it cost us. And probably then oppositions would get in on goal and would concede chances and goals from those moments. And yet, Van der Ven, just having him there prevents like 2 or 3 chances per game just with his sheer speed and sheer physicality. And I thought he was absolutely brilliant yesterday. And he made, I mentioned it before, a brilliant block from Alvarez, which was a really good chance, and he probably should have scored from it.
He had about 3 or 4 of them, didn't he?
In terms of like last ditch blocks to save a goal, that's the only one I can remember. But in terms of like last ditch like recoveries, which it looked like Man City were going to get a chance, and then he just comes over and prevents any chance from even happening. That happened about 3 or 4 times in the game. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. Literally didn't put a foot wrong. I didn't see too much of him on the ball. Wasn't able to display, you know, how calm and composed he can be, you know, getting forward and passing out the back and that kind of stuff. But I thought defensively was absolutely brilliant, and it's so great to have him back, and hopefully that'll give him the confidence for the rest of the season, that not that he needs it, that he's back to his best now, because he was a tad bit shaky against Man United, albeit it was still decent, but this was him back at it full confidence. And I think that little break after United game, that 2-week break one, probably did him some good.
Destiny Udogie, I thought like was really good defensively, but offensively I thought he was poor, to be honest. I think he did try and get himself up the pitch, but his quality and his passing was an issue for us yesterday, because I felt like he just either kept overplaying the pass or kept under-hitting the pass, and I expected a bit more from Udogie in an attacking phase yesterday. I mean, but I thought defensively he was spot on. Yeah,
I actually thought he dealt with Foden pretty well for a lot of that game. Obviously, Foden had that one shot, but apart from that, Foden was actually fairly quiet. Apart from a few moments, he was, you know, buzzing around the edge of the area and wasn't being picked up. That wasn't really Udogie's job at that point. I thought whenever he was on the right hand side, Udogie just outmuscled him, used his physicality, defended really, really well. I agree with that. I actually thought Udogie, by and large, had a decent game, but I also felt like the latter stage of the game, he struggled. Once he started to tire, he started making some poor decisions, I felt, and putting the team under pressure quite a few times. And especially as well, there was a couple of occasions he actually got into the final third and just needed to make a quick decision, either make the pass or maybe even have a shot or something. And he dawdled on it, didn't make a decision, and ended up losing the ball and put us back under pressure again. So I agree with you. I think in the offensive phase of play, was a bit was found wanting, didn't make quick enough decision, wasn't decisive, I think is a good term for it. But defensively, yet again, he's so physical. Even when he's like not in the right position and things like that, his just sheer physicality bails him out.
He has this knack. He has this knack of just creeping himself in there and winning the ball back when it just looks like he has no right to win the ball.
He just muscles his way in, like nothing you can do. Once he gets close to you, that's it. You've lost it, because he's just so strong.
I love him as a player, but I thought he definitely should have done better in the attacking phase of the game. But look, we got to talk about the decision of that goal. Nathan Ake puts it in the back of the net. A lot of people saying it's a foul. I mean, I've seen it so many times now, and I just still haven't made up my mind like if it's a foul or not. You've seen them given before. I mean, you saw one similar, isn't it, in the Man City Liverpool game?
Yeah, which I disagreed with. I didn't think that was a foul.
Exactly. Well, you disagreed with it at the time, and Alisson got fouled and the goal was given, or the goal wasn't given?
The goal wasn't given.
The goal wasn't given, and I thought that was very similar. The goal is given this time.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to ask.
The thing is, on that occasion, the goal wasn't given on the pitch.
Right. There's got to be some sort of consistency in terms of the decisions. I mean, look, I don't have a problem with the goal being given, just because I think on the balance of play, Man City deserved to win, and I don't know. I don't think it's. I keep changing my mind on it, but I don't think it's a foul, to be honest.
Here's how I think. I think it's a soft. If it is a foul, it's a soft one, right? I think there's a good argument to say that it is a foul. But I don't think it would have been right for VAR to come in and intervene in that situation. I think it was right that VAR stuck with the on-field decision, because we're looking at it now. Even us, as you say, you looked at it 50 times and you can't make your mind up. So you have to stick with the on-field decision if that's the case. So I think that was correct. Now, should the referee on the field given a foul? I think 9 times out of 10, the referee gives a foul in that situation. So I think we probably got a bit unlucky. That's why Vicario was so incensed, because I thought he expected the whistle to be blown there. And just a bit similar to the Trafford one as well, not long ago. Diaz kind of backs into him. Doesn't really make too much of a challenge on him, but all he did was back into him. He does go for the ball, Diaz. He had his eyes on the ball. He jumps up. I don't know if he does too much wrong. The only thing that makes me think it probably was a foul was when he jumps, he has his elbow near Vicario, not his face, but like his shoulder area here. And if he's challenging him and he doesn't get the ball and his elbow's on him, most referees in that position give a foul. But I do think it would have been soft. It's one of those soft fouls, which I don't think anyone can really have too many complaints about, in my opinion. So I wouldn't say Vicario did much wrong either. He tried to get to it. He obviously got 2 hands on it, but he is being challenged. I guess unless you want to say goalkeepers cannot be challenged by players, then I think that's got to be allowable. Unless you change a rule to say goalkeepers can't be challenged.
Look, it's a difficult one to analyse, to be honest, but I think when there's so much conflicting opinions and literally half the people say it is a foul, half the people say it isn't a foul, then it's so contentious that I think you're right. You've got to just stick with the on-field decision. And if it's not clear cut, if it's not clear and obvious, then you can't change that decision, can you? So
no, but the question is, should the referee have blown up? That's the thing. Did the referee make a mistake or not?
I don't think he did. I don't think he did, to be honest. I really don't. So we got what we deserved in the end. That's just the facts, and we lost the game. I thought Vicario had such a quiet game. Apart from that, he did everything apart from that goal where he was a bit weak. I think he did everything to a really good level. He was making his saves.
His passing, I wouldn't say it was bad, but when he was put under pressure, it was a bit of a struggle to especially get those little clips out to the fullback and stuff like that. But yeah, I can't remember too many unbelievable saves he had to make.
He made 1 or 2 saves, like routine saves, would you expect him to make. So everything he did was to a good standard, I thought. But look, we've lost 1-0. Spurs are out of the FA Cup, again, at the hands of Manchester City, which was a very anticlimactic night yesterday. It's just really, really hard one to take yesterday because we were just so confident going into it. But
sometimes
we move.
We're beaten by the better team. I think that was I don't think yesterday was a case of us not showing up and stuff like that. I think we tried. We put everything into it. We tried our best. Obviously, off the bench as well, we didn't mention it. Maddison obviously came on, but was a bit anonymous. But we didn't have too many options to change it as well, to give us that bit more energy. Like you saw how what it gave Man City to bring on De Bruyne and Doku. They kind of got a second win from that moment, and it really added to their energy, and in that it meant they ended the game really strongly, whereas it was a bit different for us. But I think you just got to give credit to a team. You got to give them respect. They won the treble last year. They're back in. They're still in all the competitions apart from the League Cup this year. We know how good they are. I just expected us to give them more of a game, and I was just disappointed that we were that much second best. We only had 1 shot the whole game, but Man City, they can do that to you, and that's what happened yesterday.
Look at the 2 teams, right? Spurs are in a transitional phase this season. We're building. Man City are treble winners. They've got De Bruyne and Doku to bring on off the bench, and Jack Grealish. We've got Skip, Dane Scarlett, who's been on loan and didn't get a game at Ipswich first half of the season, and half-fit James Maddison.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you just got to put your hands up and say we were beaten by the better team, beaten by the better squad.
Maybe if we had Sarr, Basuma, Son all available, could have been different.
Yeah, it could have been. And I did think massively we missed Sarr as well, to be fair, yesterday, as we probably do every time he's not on that football pitch. But it doesn't take away from the disappointment of going out of the cup, obviously, because we just went into it so confident and probably Probably should have taken how much of a good team Man City are more into account. But look, it is what it is.
But I don't think it was wrong of us to expect us to really give it a good go. You know what I mean? I think it wasn't wrong of us to not expect the performance like yesterday. One shot was very uncharacteristic of Tottenham.
It is, and probably the first time that's happened all season.
Yeah,
but we are coming.
First time we haven't scored.
Yeah. But, you know, we know how important the likes of Heung-min Son are against Man City. It's the first time that we've played Man City for ages without Sonny. And you just saw what happened on that pitch.
Yeah, but we went to the Etihad, didn't we? I know we had Son then, but we didn't have some defenders and stuff like that. And we gave them a lot better, more of a game than we did. Yeah, although you could probably argue we conceded better chances in that game.
In that game against Man City, we should have been out of sight in that first half. We should have been completely out of sight in the first half. And then if we were, and if Haaland puts away those chances, which he puts away 9 times out of 10, you're probably sitting here thinking this was the better performance.
But at least we were able to get on the ball a bit more in that game, you know, and hurt them, which we just weren't able to do at all in this game, which was a bit perplexing. I know Man City are very good, no doubt, and I know Man City, they can do that. They can stifle you, and I think Pep is adding that bow to their armory, especially this season where they can just control a game and win it 1-0. But I'm just a bit surprised that we weren't able to even have a few moments where we really opened them up or really took it to them. And that was just the most disappointing thing. But I don't think it was for the lack of trying. That's all I'm going to say.
I would say, though, that the reaction from a lot of Spurs fans on social media is a bit over the top for this game. Like, let's be real. Yes, we didn't create too many chances, but neither did they. We lost 1-0 to the world champions, European champions, treble winners in the last minute to a very scrappy goal. That's what happened in the game yesterday. Yes, we weren't good enough. I completely agree. But the reaction, maybe it's just because of anger, another year of no trophy and everything like that. But when you actually read the game, yes, we got dominated for the majority of the game, but we lost 1-0 in the 88th minute to the world champions. Like, it's not the worst thing in the world.
No, I think it's one you just got to take on the chin. It wasn't like we were battered.
Do you not think this reaction over social media is just completely over the top?
Yeah, I agree. I think anyone going overboard saying, got to question this one, that one, even some people questioning Ange, over the performance, I think is way too over the top considering where we've come this season. Even in this specific game, it was only 1-0, you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was a trouncing. It was still very much in the balance up until the last stages.
So we could have nicked that.
And even though we were second best, no doubt about it, we were second best in this game. You should expect to be second best against Man City. You should expect to not be the better team because they are a better team than us. That's the reality of the situation. If you're expecting us to be better than Man City, then your expectations are way out of whack. However, what I would say is there not an argument to say, okay, I'm not expecting us to be better than Man City, but I expect us to, at home in an FA Cup game on a Friday night, have more than one shot on goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a fair argument.
No, absolutely. Look, I'm not saying it wasn't a disappointment yesterday. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that the reaction after losing 1-0 in the last minute against Man City, not everyone, but a lot of people saying, oh, it's a disgrace, questioning Ange and all this kind of stuff. Like, Ange has changed the face of this football club this season. Like, he's been the best thing to happen to this club in the last 5 years since sacking Pochettino. So, yeah, Ange maybe could have made a few changes a bit earlier in the game, but that's the only real criticism I have on him. And he made the changes probably 10, 15 minutes later than I probably would have, or probably the criticism I have for him. But I remember saying to you in the stadium, like, yeah, well, look, we need changes now. We need changes now.
No, fair, but it was 0-0.
Yeah.
When he did make the changes, were we better after the changes?
No, we weren't.
So it's not like there's any evidence that making the changes earlier would have massively.
No, but I get that, but that's the only slight criticism I have on Ange yesterday. Like, there's no other criticism I can put on him. Like, we tried to play our football. It's just Man City were a lot better than us on the day.
Yeah, and that's
and they can do that to anyone in world football.
Yeah.
Like, they can take on Real Madrid, Barcelona, whoever the best teams are in Europe right now and do that exact same thing to them on any given day. And that's how good Man City are.
That's the truth. I can't disagree with you. So it's a tough one. I really, really did have some hope that we can maybe spring a surprise and really have a really special night at the Lane yesterday. But it didn't happen. And I don't think anyone can expect us to have beaten Man City, especially where Man City are at the moment. But I guess it's disappointing in just the manner of how it seemed to be we went out with a bit of a whimper, unfortunately. But that's Man City. They're so strong. They're so strong defensively. They're so strong on the ball. And I thought they brought their A game yesterday. If their Man City bring their A game, they're going to be near impossible to stop.
Yeah, they had one mission at the start of this season, and that is to score at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and that's what they did yesterday, and they won the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the match review from yesterday. Let's move on to player ratings and see how we go on that one. We'll start off with Vicario. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I thought fairly quiet day for Vicario, to be honest, considering how much possession Man City did have. I thought he made a number of saves on the day, which I thought was to a good level. And everyone's going to be talking about that goal. Some say it was weak. Some say it was a foul. I think it's somewhere in the middle, to be honest. I still haven't made my mind up. But I thought Vicario probably should have been a bit stronger.
Yeah, I think I probably marked him down for the goal, I would say, because I just did think it was a bit soft. I know Diaz is challenging him, but I think he could have got that punch a bit further out. I think he could have got more on it. I know he'll be complaining. I think on another day it would have been a foul and we're not talking about it. But unfortunately, referee didn't give it. And looking back, I just do think it was a soft situation. So I don't think he can have much to complain about. Other than that, I thought he had a pretty decent game. I thought everything else he did pretty well. His handling was pretty good. There was one moment in the second half where it looked like he might have spilled a shot, but luckily no one was around, so he was able to gather it up. Second attempt. Didn't have to make too many unbelievable saves, but what he did have to do, he did pretty well. Apart from a few passes which went out of play, I thought it was pretty good.
Pedro Porro up next. Him gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. Look, what we know Pedro Porro brings is his quality on the ball, and I just felt that was lacking a bit yesterday. From a defensive standpoint, I thought he stood up for the team. I thought he was winning his duels. He was combative. He was playing very well in that kind of aspect, but I felt a bit let down with Pedro Porro in terms of his play on the ball yesterday.
Yeah, and also thought his set pieces weren't amazing either. I thought we struggled to create chances from them. Yeah, I thought he struggled in the build-up. That's usually his biggest strength, and that's one of the reasons in the team is his ability to pick out clever passes from deep positions and allow us to build up. There were a couple of occasions he was able to do it, but by and large he wasn't. Didn't see him too many times in the final third. Maybe he was penned back by Man City, you could argue. So I have a bit of sympathy for that. But defensively, he was doing a really good job. I thought he made some really good blocks. I remember there was one from Oscar Bob in the first half. He just threw his body on the line and ended up blocking a shot, which would have been a shot on target for Man City. So I thought overall had a good game defensively, but wasn't one of his best games on the ball. So yeah, I gave him a 7.
In terms of Mickey van der Ven, 9s all round for Big Mickey. I thought he was absolutely incredible yesterday. Best player on the park for both teams. I don't know who got man of the match yesterday, but he definitely should have got it if he didn't. And every time it looked like we were under pressure, he was the one there with his sliding challenges when sometimes he had just no right to win the ball, and he did. Incredible performance for him. If it wasn't for him, we probably would have lost this game quite comfortably, to be honest. And I think he was the reason why the scoreline, they didn't score up until the last minute, to be honest. And such a great player. His recovery pace and runs were incredible. And I thought really good display.
Yeah, I thought it was near faultless. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. He gives like a safety blanket, doesn't he, for the rest of the back four to try and push up and put a bit of risk to the game, because they know any passing behind Mickey van der Ven more often than not is going to get there ahead of the attacker. And I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, on the ball, wasn't able to show off what he's able to do, but off the ball was really exceptional. Barely put a foot wrong. And if it wasn't for him, it would have been the result would have been a lot worse.
Destiny Kuti Romero, up next. 8s all round for Kuti. Look, it was a good display. As we say, we give him an 8, and I thought he was caught out of position a couple of times where Mickey van der Ven had to recover for him. But that's the great thing about Romero and van der Ven and the partnership. They're always there to back up each other. But I thought he grew into the game after those initial phases in the early stages of the game. Stood up for the team as well. I just love that partnership of him and van der Ven. They're like They're so good together. I did feel like he was losing his head towards the end of the game, though. A few fouls started to creep in there because he went 85 minutes without making a foul. I thought he didn't really put a foot wrong up until then. And then he did. You saw that frustration start to creep through, and he started to clatter a couple of people, and he made 2 fouls late on. But good display from Kuti.
Yeah, I don't think he was at his most confident best, where he's like, striding into midfield, making those forward passes, just being that confident on the ball. I felt like he was playing a bit cautiously throughout a lot of it, although when he did try and press some of the Man City players, I did see moments where he was pressing them even into midfield and trying to be really aggressive. But I thought overall, defensively, he led the line really well. I thought he partnered Van de Ven very well. Again, on the ball, didn't see too much of him. He was forced to go long a lot more often than maybe he would have liked. But I thought defensively, pretty spot on. I don't think he saved us as many times as Van de Ven did. And I thought Van de Ven obviously recovered a lot better. But I thought Romero still had a pretty good game. So I gave him an 8.
Destiny Udogie, left back, 7s all round from Destiny. I thought defensively he was spot on, to be honest. The amount of duels he was winning on the day, the amount of times he was just winning the ball, like I said for Van de Ven, but Udogie as well, just when he had completely no right to win the ball. I thought he dominated in terms of a defensive standpoint on that left-hand side, but it was his forward play which really let us down, to be honest, because he was getting on the ball, he was holding on the ball for too long, he was over-hitting passes, he was under-hitting passes. It's just not something you associate with Destiny Udogie, and there were so many times where he just could have slipped in Timo Werner, and he just didn't, to be honest, and it was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I thought, I agree with you, on the ball was disappointing, made some bad decisions, especially when he started to get a bit tired. He started to dawdle on the ball a bit too much and was dispossessed a bit too easily. But off the ball, he's just so hard to beat. He just muscles his way in between the man and the ball, and there's nothing much the opposition winger can do about it. On this occasion, it was Phil Foden more often than not, and I thought he dealt with Foden really, really well. But unfortunately, on this occasion, when playing that inverted fullback role, was asked to play in midfield quite a bit and didn't quite get enough on the ball and wasn't able to assert himself on the ball on this game. So that was disappointing, but I thought off the ball was good enough to get a 7.
Yeah, Rodrigo Bentancur, 7 from Sim, 6 from me. I felt a bit let down a little bit from Rodrigo yesterday. I didn't feel like he showed his real self in terms of getting on the ball, dictating the play, showing that combative nature. He was okay. In fact, I mean, he wasn't terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but he just wasn't what we know he can produce on the ball and off the ball. From a defensive standpoint, I thought he was okay, but going forward, there was just nothing in there from Bentancur.
Yeah, it wasn't his most confident display. I think maybe a 7 was a bit too high, actually, on reflection, but I thought he competed quite well for periods, but unfortunately, when it really came to it, he was second best in that midfield battle. I thought going forward, especially playing in that number 8 position, he's asked to get on the ball a bit more, find those tight spaces, dribble, carry the ball past players, and he wasn't really up to it, to be honest. Unfortunately for him, he was just a bit underwhelming, which, Bentancur, these kind of games, usually he steps up in the big games and has a big influence. But unfortunately, in this one, just wasn't the Bentancur we know he can be, unfortunately. So, a bit disappointing, although he did have moments where he was on the ball, he looked classy and he did have some good passes. But I think overall, we know has a lot more in his locker.
Yeah. Moving on to Decky, Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. There's a lot of criticism for Dejan Kulusevski yesterday, to be honest. But I can understand it. But I did think he was absolutely tragic yesterday, like some people seem to think. I thought in the first half, he should have done a lot more on the ball. He should have been our chief creator in the middle of the park, and he just didn't do that. I thought it was very hard because Man City just kind of penned us into our own half, but he was the one that's supposed to have that out ball, the one that real creative quality that we just didn't see yesterday. But I thought he put himself about quite a bit. He just non-stop running, a lot of duels won. From a defensive standpoint, I thought he did really well. In the second half, when he moved over to the right-hand side, I did think he got a little bit better, and he was the one being asked to dictate the play a little bit and get on the ball and start orchestrating attacks, which I did think he started to do a little bit. But I just thought Man City were just so much better than us on the day that the players around him in an attacking phase as well didn't really do that well. So I thought Kulusevski tried so hard, but just the quality on the ball just really wasn't there.
Yeah, I think it was a disappointing game from Decky, unfortunately. I did think when he was playing centrally, he did struggle to really impact the game. Wasn't able to get on the ball. He was being combative, but in that position, we need him to really dictate things and take the game to Man City, and he just wasn't able to do it. I thought he was really well shackled by Rodri. When he did move over to the right-hand side, what was good about him was he was showing for the ball. He was keeping the ball in possession. He wasn't losing it a lot like Brennan Johnson. But what we gained in that, we lost in any sort of threat in behind because of his lack of speed. And that's kind of the give and take you have to go with when you've got Johnson and Kulu as your options. It's kind of they're kind of each is their yin to the other's yang at the moment. They're kind of both the opposites of each other in that position. So he offered us something different, but it still wasn't as effective, unfortunately. So for me, one of his weaker games, unfortunately.
Pierre, I'm a Højbjerg. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. I thought for the first 70 minutes he was putting himself about so well, doing such a good job for the team. To me, I really think that, and I think he's non-stop running. He was helping us in a defensive phase. He was getting his blocks in, getting clearances out there, and really just running around like a headless chicken trying to stop those Man City attacks. But it was really in the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes when his story of the game is people who are going to read that from, where he just made 2 horrific mistakes where Man City probably should have scored from both of them, to be honest. Absolutely dreadful passes on the ball where he just played Man City through on goal pretty much. So a lot of people are going to take those moments and say that was the story of his game, but I'm going to prefer to just focus on those first 70 minutes where I thought he was pretty good.
I thought it was decent. I don't think it was anything amazing in the first 70 minutes. He probably was probably our best midfielder, but I think our midfield did struggle in that period, even though he was probably playing quite well, I would say. But I thought, for that last 20 minutes or so, he was a bit disgraceful. Some of the mistakes he made were just completely unnecessary, completely brainless. That swipe he did in the penalty area just really annoyed me. It's like how can you not have concentration to just get a good connection and clearance on the ball and just take a completely brainless swipe like that? Those kind of things. Højbjerg definitely is not alien in terms of, it's not the first time I've seen Højbjerg do something like that, and it's not the first time I've seen him lose the ball in a dangerous position like he did for the second moment where he's inside the penalty area and just loses it unnecessarily, where he dawdles on the ball for way too long and it nearly costs us again. There are a few moments as well, as you have with Højbjerg. Look, it's not his fault, but he could be playing the ball quicker, could be making a quicker decision, and waits too long, ends up playing the pass at the wrong time or a bit too late and the chance is gone. So he frustrated me a lot, to be honest, yesterday. But as you say, there were some good things. He did do a job for the team off the ball. He worked tirelessly. So I don't want to discredit all of that good work, but yeah, those last 20 minutes really, really annoyed me, I have to say.
Yeah. Brennan Johnson, 4s all round for Brennan. Another lackluster display, unfortunately, for Brennan Johnson. And I don't know what he was offering us on the pitch yesterday. Little, next to nothing, to be honest. He was getting on the ball quite a bit. He failed to take on his man route the outside. He failed to make those runs in behind. Every time he was getting on the ball, it seemed like he was losing it. And when you're playing Man City, you need to be on it, on an attacking phase, and you need to make that space count. And he just didn't do that. I mean, I don't know what he offered us on the pitch yesterday. And unfortunately, I'm going to say, I think he needs to come out the team. I think we need to start Decky back on the right-hand side, because Brennan's just not offering us anything. I'm not saying I'm a fan of Brennan, so I'm not going to say like he's never going to offer us something, but he's a young player and he needs to grow into this team, and he just hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, I think it's been a difficult period for him. Obviously, last couple of games, Man United and Man City, not the easiest games, but obviously you expect him to do a lot more. He was very poor in this game. Again, didn't show for the ball when we're trying to build up, and he needs to come short and be part of our build-up play and part of the team kind of keeping possession, knitting the play together. Was just bullied by Gvardiol, was allowing him to step in front of him, and we lost it on a number of occasions. There was no real threat in behind. What I would say is, in the first half, he was the only one trying to get in behind and trying to get to the byline, and he did on, I think, 1 or 2 occasions, which is more than a lot of the other players. But unfortunately, when he did get to those positions, the quality wasn't there. His crossing was terrible. But would I rather a player get in a position and put a bad ball or not get in the position at all? I'd probably rather a player get in that position. And Werner in that first half wasn't getting in the position at all. So he gets a tad bit of credit for that. But as you say, quality just was completely missing. And then second half, he was anonymous. He wasn't even getting the position. So I can't even give him credit for that. And he badly struggled. Gvardiol, we know, is a very good defender. It's always going to be a difficult game up against him. But as I said, when you've seen Johnson in the mood and confident, he can take on anyone and burn them for pace and really create a chance or give them trouble. And Gvardiol would felt like he had an easy game yesterday.
He just seems a bit weak, Brennan. He needs to, like you say, start having a bit of confidence to really go and take on his man. He's just not doing it. With the pace he has, he should at least be trying it. You know what I mean? Start knocking it past the defender and start trying to take him around the outside. He's just not doing that at the moment. In
terms of should he come out of the team? I don't know because we still don't have Sarr and Basuma, so I would really like to see next game against Brentford, Bentancur, Maddison and Kulusevski all central with Brennan keeping on the right. But obviously if that's too attacking, then yeah, Brennan has to be the one.
Brennan against Reguilon.
Brennan against Reguilon. Well,
Reguilon can't play, yeah. Let's move on to Timo Werner. Sim gives him a 6. I gave him a 5. In terms of Werner, I thought like he was making so many good runs off the ball, and our team just failed to pick him out time and time again. Second half, I thought there was a couple of times he did get on the ball, and he showed a few little moments of quality. But again, when he did get the ball into the box, there was just no one there. I thought that there were a couple of moments in there from Werner where I thought, all right, this guy has got a bit about him, but he just didn't get on the ball enough. That's just what the case was.
Yeah, I think that's the reality. I thought when he did get on the ball, he was actually quite bright and he looked quite good. Obviously, that moment as we spoke about in the review where he gets past Walker, plays an nearly inch perfect, maybe a tad bit too much in front of Johnson, but a really good through ball into Johnson. And Johnson didn't get on the end of it. He got there before Ortega and ends up his shot ends up being saved. So he showed he does have that quality, and when he did get on the ball, he was threatening, got in behind a couple of times, but unfortunately it was more anonymous than getting involved, and that'll be very, very disappointing. Wasn't really involved in a lot of the phases of play, but as you say, he'll be frustrated that a number of times he made some really good runs in behind and wasn't picked up. And maybe it's a case of this is his second game. He just needs to develop those relationships with his teammates, and that takes time sometimes. So I have some sympathy, but he just needs to get more involved when playing games like yesterday.
But what I would say about Timo is that he needs to keep making those runs, because that's going to be of high value to the team if he keeps doing it, because they will pick them out eventually. And especially when Maddison comes back into the team, those runs will be utilised. So I did see some good things in there from Timo Werner. Let's move on to Richarlison. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I mean, this guy just did not stop running for the whole 90 minutes. When he did get the ball, I thought he held up the ball well. It's just unfortunate that the other attackers and the midfielders weren't kind of on the same level as him yesterday, because I thought Richarlison, from an attacking point of view, was probably our best player, but we still didn't be able to impact anything. It's just he puts in such a hard work and such hard work rate for the team. It's just a shame nothing came from it.
Completely agree. I thought he did his job. I said in the preview, I actually don't expect Richarlison in this game to be getting in too many goal-scoring positions or running in behind too often, because I don't know if he has the pace to get away from those Man City defenders. But what I do expect him is to be a nuisance, hound the opposition. I expect him to win free kicks, make the ball stick, hold the ball up, win corners as well. And I thought he did that. I have to give him credit. I thought he did that quite well, and I thought his overall build-up play was actually really strong. And there were some occasions as well he's coming deep, making it stick, and spreading the play really nicely as well. But when you're a striker, you do get judged more often than not on, how likely or how close were you to scoring goals? Did you score any goals? How many shots did you have? All that kind of stuff. On that front, it's hard to judge him because he just wasn't involved in those we had one shot all game and it wasn't him, basically. So it's hard to say, oh, he should have buried this chance or that chance and stuff like that, because he wasn't getting the chances, and that you got to criticize him a bit for not being in the positions to get the chances. So gets a bit of criticism, but I thought by and large, for sure, he was our best attacker. He was one getting involved the most. And I thought in terms of his job on the pitch, I think he did it for me in terms of what I was looking for him to do in this game. I thought he did his job. So.
It's a good point, actually, you make about not being there, because I said in the preview that Richarlison needs to be at the right place at the right time consistently in this game. And I thought there were a couple of moments, only a handful of them, even less than a handful, to be honest, when Brennan gets the ball in the box, Timo Werner gets the ball in the box, and there was just no one there. Richarlison had got to be there in those moments, which is where he gets those down marks. But he, in terms of what he did when the ball came to him, he did to a good level, but he again, like, because the Man City had the ball for the majority of the game, he was a little bit anonymous as well.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the substitutes. In terms of Ollie, Skip, Sim gives him a 6, as do I. I thought he came on, gave the team a bit of renewed energy when he did come on. I thought he showed a bit of quality as well, but I mean, he did get overrun a little bit as well. So I think Ollie Skip, I actually think in the last couple of performances is showing his value to the team.
Yeah, there was one moment inside his own defensive third where he does a little pirouette away from a couple of City defenders and is able to get the ball up the pitch, and that was quite nice. And there was another moment he breaks a run down the right hand side and looks for a cutback, but obviously doesn't find anyone, and that was good to see him getting forward and be confident. But I don't think he impacted the game too much in terms of like benefiting us, like actually taking the lead or anything. But at least he added a bit more energy, a bit of stability. But as well, him coming on was part of Man City's best period in terms of late in the game where they seemed to open us up a bit more. So it's hard to say him coming on impacted us overall as a team well, but I thought him personally had a decent cameo.
And last but not least, of the players that we're going to rate is James Maddison, who came on with 20 minutes to go. Sim gives him a 5, I gave him a 4. The guy had about 4 or 5 touches on the day. Yeah, he was so anonymous. I didn't even know he was playing, to be honest. I saw him come on, obviously, but then 5 minutes later, I completely forgot he was playing because he was just 6 touches. He was just so anonymous, off the ball and on the ball. I just didn't see anything in there from James Maddison, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to even say, oh, was he looking sluggish? Was he looking, rusty? But because he just didn't have the ball. I mean, and it wasn't as if he was only on for 5 minutes,
20 minutes.
20 minutes, so had a bit of time. But then again, you can, Kulusevski found it hard to get on the ball when he was central. Like, it was very tough for the whole team to get on the ball. Man City had a lot of possession, so.
But at least Kulusevski off the ball was doing his job and putting himself about and winning countless amount of duels. Like Maddison, I don't even remember him contesting for one.
Says he contested for one and didn't win it. So, yeah, that probably have a mark down against him for that on that front. I remember seeing him trying hard and running. I don't think it was a lack of effort, but as you say, he's been out for 3 months. It was his first game back in that period, so I'm not going to judge him too harshly. But it wasn't a great cameo. What can I say? I'm not going to sit here and say he played brilliant because he didn't. He didn't come on and do anything. So he was anonymous. Wasn't a great cameo, but it's one of those where hopefully we just move past it.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll see him back in the starting lineup against Brentford, and he can strut his stuff and find Timo Werner in those runs that he's been making off the ball. But let's finish off talking about Ange Postecoglou, who's come under a lot of criticism for yesterday. We've both given him a 6. In terms of the lineup that he started with yesterday, he did say Maddison was fit to start. I don't know if that was a bit of mind games from Ange or not, but obviously he didn't pick Maddison in the starting lineup and he went for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg instead. It's hard to really put him down on that just because Maddison's been out for so long and maybe he thought he needed 100% fit players, with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg usually very good off the ball, which I did think he was yesterday. So it's hard to mark Ange down in terms of the starting lineup he picked yesterday. That's the only decision he made where you're thinking, you can mark him down on. But what you've seen from Spurs throughout the whole season is their ability to be aggressive and create countless amount of chances. We didn't do that yesterday. I think that was just because Man City were that good on the ball. They just didn't let us have the ball and we just couldn't get on the ball. We were stifled for the majority of the game. And I don't think that that was down to Ange, to be honest. I think the only real criticism I give to Ange is not to change it quicker. But like Sim said in the match preview, in answer to that, when we did make the changes, it didn't really make too much of a difference with 20 minutes to go. So would it have made a difference with half an hour to go, 35 minutes to go? I don't know. But that's the only small criticism I have of Ange, to be honest, yesterday. And essentially, we just came up against a much better side, world champions, treble winners, Champions League winners. And we lost 1-0 in the 88th minute.
Yeah, I think yesterday, unfortunately, was a very un-Tottenham-like performance where we were trying to stay in the game rather than take the game to the opposition. And, having one shot on target or one shot at all throughout the game is definitely not good enough. I think Ange will know that's not good enough. Even against a very good Man City team, don't get me wrong, Man City are brilliant and they thoroughly deserve the win. And even if we would have changed anything, there's no guarantee that means we're going to end up with a victory. But I think Ange would have been disappointed with the lack of threat we had going forward, and that would be, as he said after the game, he's like, we gave it everything to stay in the game, but at this level against this opposition, that's not good enough. You have to offer a threat. You have to, run in behind. You have to have shots on goal. You have to have create chances. We weren't doing that. So I have to criticise Ange a bit for that because, what we've been very good at throughout the season is when we've been under the cosh and we've been second best in games, we find solutions to get through the games and we tweak things, and all of a sudden we're getting through the opposition press, and all of a sudden we are creating chances. So we've shown previously we are capable of doing it. Yesterday we just didn't do it. And it was such a big occasion. I think that was a big letdown. It was a great occasion, big FA Cup tie. It's a big team. Really great opportunity to go through to the next round and have a good opportunity to progress in the cup. Obviously, I wouldn't say it's an opportunity to progress, but it was just a good opportunity to have such a special night. And it was the fact there was just such a damp squib was very disappointing. And it's hard to put your finger on exactly why. You just got to give credit to Man City, who were that good. I can't really criticise Ange for his subs too much because you look at the bench, it was, apart from Maddison, who's really going to come on and affect the game massively. I can't see too many options. So once we get players back from injury, Lo Celso, Sarr, Basuma, Son, hopefully that bench will start looking a lot healthier. But yeah, I gave him a 6 because I can't really say we didn't play that well. Defensively, we played well, but we didn't have a great game, so I can't exactly give us a high mark.
It was a very un-Ange Postecoglou performance, wasn't it? It really was. And when you're looking at it now, in the 2 cup competitions, we've gone out both games with quite a whimper. The Fulham game, very early on the season, made so many changes and we lose on penalties, and we just were dreadful that day. And in the FA Cup against Man City, yeah, we did come up against a much better side. But again, it was just, we just couldn't create those chances. And I felt in both cup competitions where you felt like we could go far in both of them, we've gone out quite early in both of them and with a whimper in both of them, which is a real big disappointment.
Was it a bit of a reality check, maybe, of where we really are yesterday?
Yeah, potentially. But I think...
At least didn't get battered. I wouldn't say we're not coming off from a 4-0 defeat, but...
People need to realise where we're at as a football team right now. We're in the first phase of having a new manager and a new process and a new system. First half of the season has been very good in terms of the way we've been playing our football, but we need to realise that we're still on a really good path here as a football club. Mm-hmm. The manager is the perfect manager to take us forward. We're seeing the team come together. We've got a good team now. We just need to beef up that squad a little bit more. We're nowhere near there yet, but I think we will be there very soon. So people still have a lot of reason, and I've still got a lot of reason to be positive in the direction of this football club and the way we're going as a football club. So yeah, it was very disappointing yesterday. It was very disappointing in the League Cup as well. But I still think there are so many reasons why Spurs fans can be positive and confident about the club moving forward.
Yeah, agreed.
So that is it. That is your player ratings. Let's finish. Pardon? Let's finish off talking, seeing how the internet did react to that 1-0 loss yesterday. First up, we've got the stats talking about Rodrigo Bentancur, and he says, I'm a big fan of this man, probably my second favourite player in this squad, but yesterday his lack of fitness really showed and were non-existent at times. I know fans think he can play the number 8, but I'm sure in time he can, but at the moment he needs to play the number 6 role. He does not have the legs currently to do all the running of an 8. And I think that kind of was shown yesterday, to be honest. maybe the 6 role might have been more kind of suited to him and him coming back to full fitness. I just don't. I think he just put in a fairly poor display yesterday.
Yeah, I think maybe he makes a good point. Because obviously he has played in this. He played in the 6 against, I think, Burnley was pretty good. Played in the 8 against United though, and he was decent in that game. So it's hard to say if it was the position that was the problem.
But he came up just against a much better midfield yesterday than he did against United.
Manu and Eriksen, where he would have the legs on them, but
Yeah.
Kovacic and a Rodri, not necessarily.
You're coming up against the best midfielder in Europe in Rodri.
Yeah, and these guys just can run all day, and they've got all the qualities. So, but you know, Bentancur, I've seen him play against Rodri and have a great game against him. So maybe I don't know if his position. Maybe it's just a case of he's still come back from injury and he needs to get back to his best. Not every game is going to be top notch just because he had a few good games.
I think so. And also, like, since he's come back from injury, as much as he has had good games, it's still not to the level as what we know that Rodrigo Bentancur can produce. So having said that that is saying he's coming back from injury, right? Because we haven't seen him at his best yet since post-injury.
Definitely.
Yeah. Albeit though, in that Aston Villa game, it's probably in that first 20 minutes before he got that second injury was probably the best we've ever seen him.
Yeah, that's also true. It's just a shame that during that period he got injured again, and since then it hasn't quite been there just yet.
Hotspur Central says that people saying we've used the rebuild excuse for years. This is the first year the rebuild has actually properly begun. Conte and Mourinho eras needed immediate success as they weren't interested in sticking out a rebuild. For me, this year was a clean slate. And I actually completely agree with that, you know. Sometimes I say, yeah, Spurs are in a rebuild, but then people say to me, yeah, we've been in a rebuild for 5 years, but this is a real rebuild. This is actually a real one, you know. We've got the manager, which is here for the rebuild, like he says, instead of here just for success immediately. You can see that the progress of the team is getting better and better and better. You can see that we've got a good starting 11. We just need options off the bench, which we haven't had all season. So I think people just need to calm down a little bit and see where we're at as a football club.
Yeah, 100%. And if you can't see the football we've been playing for a lot of the season, yes, there's going to be games where we don't play well and it doesn't go quite right because we're still at the infancy of the project. We're 7 months into it, so you can't expect everything to be perfect straight away. But the fact that we're still at such a good level, it's a weird one. It feels like that first 10 games has given everyone like false expectations as to how hard it is to actually rebuild a project. Everyone thinks everything's going to be going smoothly because after 10 games, 8 wins, 2 draws, playing great football, everyone thinks, oh, this is going to be great from here on in. But there's always going to be difficulties, and that's what we have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to turn into like this title-winning, title-challenging side just because we've appointed Ange Postecoglou. We need time.
It took 18 months for Klopp to get to the level we're at now. It took 18 months. For
Guardiola as well, it took him time.
Guardiola, he got top 4 in his first year. I'm saying Klopp finished 8th in his first season, and then in the second season, he just about made top 4. Right now, we could finish top 4, and that would be ahead of where Klopp was when he first joined Liverpool.
And when you're talking about like expectations as well, I do feel like some Spurs fans' expectations for this season are a bit too high. Like people just expect us to romp every game and win every game, like we're champions or something. Like you got to realize where we're at as a football club, and we're at the infancy of an Ange project. We're in the first 6 months, for God's sake. Like give the guy a bit of a break.
Yeah, 100%.
SofaScore saying a quick stat: Tottenham have attempted only 1 shot against Man City tonight, which is the lowest number of shots they've taken in a single match in our database. 455 matches in all competitions since the start of the 15-16 season. A humbling at home.
Yeah, that was the most disappointing thing, I think, when it comes out yesterday. I think people do go overboard with the criticism, but I think looking at that stat, that I think it's hard to disagree that however poor we were, it's just hard to believe we were so poor that we only had 1 shot. And that is something where you look at and you think, that should never be the case at home. Even against Man City, you should never be having only 1 shot. And that was disappointing. But is what Agreed. It is. What you have to just take on the chin.
I completely agree. Jacko says that surely a huge positive of yesterday is Van de Ven. He stepped up even in the toughest situation when we were struggling, saving ourselves numerous amount of times on the ball. He was also very good, composed and precise in his passing. Mature performance from an incredible young player. And I completely agree with that. I said that countless amount of times during the stream. I thought he was the best player on the park yesterday, and it's just so good to have him back, isn't it? I mean, you look at it now, going into the season, you're confident about going into the games in terms of our defensive display. We're not looking at Emerson and Ben Davis in our centre-back position. We've got Mickey van de Ven and Coutinho Romero, who are absolutely perfect for each other. And I thought Mickey just put in an unbelievable display yesterday.
Yeah, he's played like he's never been away as well. So great. Really, really good to have him back on the pitch. So can't wait to hopefully he plays from now to the end of the season. Let's hope he has a long stretch of games now.
Yep. Kev says, Tottenham Twitter, we got narrowly beat by last season's treble winners. We didn't create anything of note, but we held them for 87 minutes despite Højbjerg. It's not the end of the fucking world like some on here are acting like. The foundations are there. Cheer up. And that's kind of how I'm feeling as well after the game yesterday. All the negativity coming around after the game yesterday. Yeah, it wasn't a great performance in terms of going forward. We didn't create chances. Absolutely spot on, and we should have done. I completely agree with that. But in terms of where we're at, in terms of who we lost to yesterday, people just need to calm down a little bit.
I think Kev hit the nail on the head, to be honest. I think no one should be going overboard about this defeat. It's a tough one to take just because of how dominant City were, but it can happen, especially against a team who've been together for 9 years. You know what I mean? Against one who's been together for 7 months.
Yeah. This one from Samit saying, exhibit. I'm not even going to pretend to know what number that is, but a very high number. It's like the referees have never played football before.
It's in response to, it says, if you're a defender and you're running towards your own goal, you just fall down and the decision goes your way 99% of the time. It's absolutely right. It's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I agree with them. Like, if you're a defender and you're being chased around attacker, you don't even have to be fouled. You just fall over, and every time they give the free kick, it's so annoying. Yeah, and that happened yesterday with Werner and Walker, but it's just very annoying.
Well, was that the same case then for the goal with Vicario? Because usually when anyone just challenges the keeper or makes a touch on the keeper, it gets given the keeper's way as well.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
But not yesterday.
Nope. Yeah.
The extra inch say, I thought Werner's movement was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, and he should have been played through multiple times by Udogie, Kulusevski, Bentancur. Frustrating as we beat their press incredibly well and bravely and then failed to make the next pass. And yeah, that's kind of something that we've been alluding to in terms of the way Werner was making those runs and just consistently just wasn't found, particularly in that first half.
Yeah, and against a team like Man City, when you're up, their pressing is so good. When you are able to get through it, you have to make that count, and I feel like we just didn't. We were frustrating in that final pass. We dawdled. We didn't make decisive decisions, and maybe we're just learning how Werner likes to play. We're still, it's only a second game, remember, in a Tottenham shirt, so give it a bit of time. Maybe it'll start to click soon. But yesterday was very frustrating.
I don't even think it's a case of learning how Werner likes to play. There were clear opportunities there where he had space and he was making really good runs, and particularly Destiny Udogie, like we mentioned earlier on in the stream, just holding onto the ball for too long or making a terrible pass. I mean, I don't think that's learning how Werner likes to play. I just think that's poor application.
Yeah, it's also, I think there was definitely poor application, but sometimes once you get used to a player, it just becomes second nature. You know what exactly he's going to do. And so maybe there's just a case of maybe it needs a bit of time to build that relationship.
Jay says, this is funny, Jeremy Doku, when his fullback is under the age of 30 and has pace. That's one of the guys. There's a big meme about this guy. I can't remember the meme, but it's a very funny one, that's for sure. But Doku, I thought, was fairly poor when he came on yesterday.
I thought Porro dealt with him really well. And there was a couple of occasions he had to run at him, but Porro actually dealt with him pretty effectively, which was surprising. But yeah, it's very funny. Vicario
on Instagram yesterday says, gutted to be out the FA Cup, proud of this group. We keep fighting till the end, and a massive thanks to the fans. And it was such a big occasion, wasn't it, in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? It was buzzing for the first 20 minutes of the game, but Man City completely quieted us down, didn't he?
Yeah, 100%. That's the case. I think that's also one of the things they did really well was they quietened the crowd, because we were very loud, for the first half or so. But once we just struggled to get any sort of a foothold in the game, it was very difficult to keep that up. And that's what I remember Fergie used to say, "Oh, when we went to Anfield, the main thing is first 20 minutes you gain control and quieten the crowd, and that makes a big difference." And I think that's what City did yesterday.
Yeah. THFC Report just tweeted this out saying Pedro Porro, one of his blocks yesterday. I thought it was sensational. Look at how he celebrates it. Unbelievable.
Putting his body on the line.
Yeah.
Brilliant block as well.
I love his mentality, Pedro Porro. I just love it, and the way he celebrates his defensive actions like they're goals.
Yeah.
I just love to see that. Apollo says that this is the only man that can hold his head up high today, and that is Mickey van de Ven. I mean, we've waxed lyrical about him today, but I mean that's just one of the few clips that you can probably highlight of why he was so good yesterday.
And these moments they're just so important in games, especially against Man City, because if there's Davis there or Emerson there, we probably could see the big chance there. And luckily, because of Van de Ven, he has that pace.
Yeah. These are from Apollo, a couple of clips saying this is so poor from Destiny and Kulusevski. Werner must be fuming. And these are just another more examples of the runs that Werner were making, and we just failed to find him.
Yeah, very frustrating. Go check out Apollo's Twitter if you want to see those clips in more detail. But it's just evidence of Werner in really good positions and Spurs just not taking advantage of those. So hopefully, once we develop a bit more with him in the team, we'll start to pick out those runs more often.
Tapin Tobe says pitiful performance yesterday from Kulu, Bentancur and Johnson. Werner also stunk. Don't think I've ever seen a worse display under Ange. Romero, Van de Ven were good. Destiny did well, but his final pass stunk. Vicario should have done better for the goal. But when you've only had one shot in 90 minutes, you won't win games. Weak exit. Bounce back versus Brentford. That bounce back is obviously definitely needed.
Is that a worse display under Ange?
I
would say the Wolves one may be a bit worse.
Yeah.
Brighton?
I think Brighton, at least in the
Brighton we actually had some fight.
Yeah, at least in the Brighton game, the last 10-15 minutes, we actually could have got back into that game with the amount of chance that we had. So I think this is probably on par with the Wolves display, even though the Wolves display, we lost in the last few minutes of the game. We were 1-0 up until the 90th minute that game.
Yeah, and also we scored.
So I probably would say this is, in terms from an attacking point of view and the number of chances we've created, this is our worst display.
Yeah, I would say, is it our worst display? Yeah, but considering it was a 1-0 last minute loss against City, that's pretty impressive for that to be your worst display.
Yeah, I'll take it. THFC BD says, my head on Mars Peen explained, and that's not a foul.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen it so many times. He does have his arm there. I'm looking again. He has his arm on Vicario. I just think it's weak. I think he gets two hands on that. He could have punched it. I don't know. I don't see a massive case for a clear foul. I do think it probably is a slight foul. I think if that's given, I don't think anyone complains. But I just think it's not a clear and obvious mistake. I don't think VAR should have got involved.
Yeah. Spurs ITK Hub says, obviously disappointing to be out of the cup, but felt less pressure on us to win cups under Ange compared to Jose and Conte. They were only here short term, and it was make or break for them. Ange, much more than the feeling build something long term. Very unfortunate to play such a hard team in the early rounds of the tournament too. Do you think there's less pressure on Ange to win a trophy as there was on Conte and Mourinho?
This season, for sure. For sure I do. Because he's got the backing of a project, whereas we knew Mourinho and Conte, as much as we wanted to believe it was a project, I don't think anyone really truly believed it was. Everyone really knew that they had to win. It was like every trophy they didn't win, it was like another step towards their exit, whereas I don't think it doesn't feel like that with Ange. You know what I mean? And
like Conte, I mean, he was only on a short-term contract anyway, wasn't he?
So it's kind of now or never for them, but it wasn't the same for Ange.
But Mourinho, I don't know, I felt like Mourinho was supposed to be a bit of a project.
Yeah, we hoped, but it turned out that we hoped that Mourinho had changed, but he just hadn't. That's the reality.
Spurs Express saying, this is Sonny on Instagram yesterday watching the game, and he must have been so frustrated watching that, being like, I just need to be on that pitch.
100%. He must have been absolutely climbing the walls, thinking, what I could be doing.
Spurs OTM with another clip of Mickey van der Vel. Is actually the same clip as, just absolutely winning the ball off Foden yesterday. And I think that is all we have for the way the internet did react to the game yesterday. Spurs did go out with a whimper from the FA Cup, but we got to dust ourselves off. We've got a game very soon on Wednesday night against Brentford, so we have to get back to winning ways against Brentford and carry on that good form in the league. So that is it from us today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Actually, just before we go, let's go through those super chats. My screen, do you want to just go through them?
Where is that? Oh, here it is. Shem Tan says, the loss is on Ange. No plan B. Late subs. No pressing. I think he means. I mean, it's hard to have a plan B when. Ange. I mean, what would it be on a plan B? Bring on Santiago. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel it's very harsh to say it's on Ange.
I feel like everyone. I don't understand why everyone's going so hard on Ange. After a loss against Man City in the FA Cup 1-0 in the 88th minute. Yeah, we didn't show the attacking intent that maybe we have shown all season. But still, like, what more could he have done?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's harsh to blame him for the defeat yesterday. Tottenham Coys says, Kulu going forward is too slow and predictable, and it's a problem. He seems to get a free pass from our fans. 90k a week. Hard work is a given.
He puts in hard work every week. I don't think he didn't put in hard work yesterday.
No, he's not saying. He's saying hard work is a given. He should be more than that, I think.
Oh, right.
But look, I think he offers a lot. I know he didn't have a good game yesterday, but I think he's been having a good season for me. And so I think goal contributions wise, he's been doing all right. I think. Is there a case though to say that he should be putting in more consistent performances? I think everyone. I think could he put? I think he's been pretty consistent. To be honest. I think maybe of late, maybe hasn't been at his best, but he has had some good games when he's been in the centre. So I don't know. I'm not here to criticise him. I don't think he had a good game yesterday. But I didn't play last against Man United, and then before that, what was the game before that? I can't remember. We beat Bournemouth. Can't remember.
Burnley in the cup. Bournemouth, Brighton.
Yeah, he hasn't been great recently. It's true. He hasn't been great recently.
So there is a case then.
I don't think Spurs have been great recently. I don't think it's just been him.
Anvil says didn't say it, but he has been a member for 24 months. Says trophy comes next year, Champions League, to help attract players as well as the big Ange pull. Yeah. But look, there's no option but to go for a trophy next year because we ain't getting one this year.
Mate, we're going for it. Only 8 points behind.
Only 8 points, yeah. The last one is from Joseph Vukovic saying, King yesterday in the post-match reaction on the channel blaming Ange on the team he selected. I didn't understand how that's Ange's fault. Look at our bench versus City's silly comment from him. I thought he was talking about Ledley King, but then I was talking about Josh King.
Lord Pessy. I think blaming Ange is very. I don't know. I think you can criticise the performance. You can say Ange is responsible for the performance. I think that's fair. But to blame him for if he would have done this or that, we would have won and stuff like that. But what
selection of the team could he have done better apart from Madison, Verheugen?
That's it, really.
What else is there? And Madison, I think if Madison was completely fully fit, he would have played yesterday.
Yeah, so I don't know. I find it hard to really lay the blame on Ange. I would say the fact, we only got one shot on goal and the fact that we struggled, you can say, Ange should have trained the team better to have put in a better performance. But that, I think you can say that about him. But to say, if he would have done all these things differently, we would have got a result. I just don't know if that's true.
Maybe he should have taken them for warm weather training.
Yeah, maybe that was a mistake.
But look, I was watching Josh's reaction to the game yesterday, him and Amir, and I did feel like it was very much over the top, the criticism. And like I keep saying, people just need to realise where we're at as a football club, and we're on a path at the moment. We're on a good path, so people need to stick with it. And I think the majority of the frustrations yesterday isn't actually on Ange, and it isn't actually on you know, the loss yesterday. It's just that we're so starved of a trophy, and this is just another one gone down the drain.
I agree. I think that's the main thing. It's not really the performance. It's just the situation where the FA Cup's gone now, and we can't win another year without a trophy.
Yeah, because I think people saw this game as like, you know, we can actually win this game, and if we did win this game, we've got a good chance of winning the cup.
Yeah, I think if this would have happened in the league and we would have gone through in the cup, it would have been a different reaction.
Yeah, agreed. But look, that is all we have time for today. So thank you so much for everyone for coming and joining the stream today. We'll see you all next time. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.